Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders Live. I'm going to be taking over for Charlie for this episode, and we have a great guest today, co-founder of Sage, Rashik. So I'm super thrilled to talk to him about it. Thank you all for joining and coming in. If you're watching on social, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, please drop your questions or anything throughout the interview. We're going to get to a Q&A at the end. If you are just coming on and this is your first event, my name is Michael. I'm the CEO of Entre. We're a social network for entrepreneurs and really the future of work. So our whole focus is helping entrepreneurs start businesses easier and faster, jump into a like-minded community, help you find co-founders, investors, developers, and get the resources that you need to be successful. So I want to start off. We'll give it a minute here and let some more people join. If you want to sign up and come into our community and meet some of the other like-minded people, you can just go to joinentre.com. It's right behind me here, and sign up for free. It's a totally free mobile and web app. We're going to be really basically publicly launching starting next week. So there's a few thousand people in there already, and we're excited to expand that. So our whole job with this show and Leaders Live is to bring in the top CEOs, investors, venture capitalists, all sorts of phenomenal entrepreneurs. And we have a great founder today. He's really transforming the insurance industry. So I'm super thrilled to welcome in the co-founder of Sage. Rashik, how are you?
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'd love to start off with, filling people in on your background. If you want to share a little bit about Sage, covered by Sage, where you're at right now, but really, I'd love to have you give a quick overview, of your background and story, and then we can dive into the founding story and go into a little bit more detail as well.
Yeah, happy to. So first of all, thanks for having me. Excited about this conversation. Look, I'm the founder CEO of Covered by Sage. We are a tech-enabled property and casualty insurance brokerage that is revolutionizing the industry for the benefit of a bunch of agents and their customers in the industry. Insurance industry is obviously incredibly vital, and we are playing a very important role by leveraging technology to really empower agents and risk advisors and their clients. And so a little bit about my background. This is Covered by Sage is essentially a culmination of my years of studying and investing in the insurance space. Prior to starting Sage, I was at, I started Sage while at Harvard Business School. Prior to HBS, I was an investor at Soros Fund Management, where I invested predominantly in the capital-intensive businesses, and one of those happened to be in the insurance space. And before Soros, I was a mergers and acquisitions analyst at Citi in New York, and I went to school at BYU for undergrad. I'm originally from Nepal, so hopefully that gives a little bit more context about me. And obviously, happy to go into any of these if you find interesting.
Yeah, no, I think your background is absolutely fascinating, especially you kind of in some of the biggest companies for finance, especially being in New York. It's really interesting that background, and then starting your own company and then getting into insurance. I'd love for you to share, what made you want to because a lot of people, their dream is, some of the jobs that you've had and for some of those companies and stuff. Why did you decide to, I want to go to Harvard, I want to, start my own company, and, not only, I mean, insurance and finance are kind of tied together, but why did you, decide to really become an entrepreneur and start a company rather than taking a very, what is a great career and great jobs and leaving those behind to, do your own thing and start your own company? What led to that decision?
Good question. So I think, you're absolutely right. I had a really, I think I'm quite fortunate with regards to the experience I've had. But look, I think one of the defining characteristics of entrepreneurs is that when they see a problem, they jump in and try to solve it. And insurance industry, though not as sexy as some of the other industries might be, presented quite a significant problem, and a problem that I felt I deeply understood, and a problem that was, quite central to how insurance is distributed and how insurance is understood by both agents and their customers. And even though both of the jobs I held, one as an investment banker and subsequently as an investor, were incredibly fulfilling. I learned a lot, and I was, I think, relatively good at it. But when I went to business school, I went to business school with the mindset that I'm going to pick a problem that interests me and work towards solving it. And this, particularly the problem statement we have, it turned out to be quite a big problem. It touches pretty much everyone. It affects households, it affects businesses, it affects individuals, and it also affects hundreds of thousands of small business owners who are, particularly in our case, insurance agency owners and insurance agents, producers. And the experiences I had previously really were training grounds for me to develop a problem thesis that was quite acute and large. And it also gave me insights into how do you go about really breaking down something as sizable as one we are attacking, and approach it in a manner where you can continue to de-risk the business by figuring out a couple of things that you can do really well, and then move towards attacking a larger problem, which is sort of the direction that we are heading. So I think I don't necessarily view going to investment banking, then into investing, then to business school as something different that then I somehow pivoted into being an entrepreneur. I mean, if I look at my life, I've always taken risk. I'm from a relatively modest background back home in Nepal, and and this desire to really go explore new things, learn about new things, try to find exciting problems to solve, led me to this place. And I feel like this is a relatively natural evolution of that interest that I had. And obviously, when you combine that with the experience and the learnings I've had in this industry, it became almost quite a natural progression. So this isn't necessarily something I decided to do because I didn't like investing. I didn't like what I was doing there. I loved it. But this is no different, right? We're solving another problem. I'm playing a slightly different role, building a team and have a thesis that impacts, thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And I think that's an exciting part. And, for me, it's quite natural that I'm doing this.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. And it's one of those things too that I've noticed, and a lot of the most successful people talk about this too. It's you get paid for the magnitude of the problems that you solve. So if you solve small problems, you're probably gonna get paid minimal and whatnot. If you solve very large problems, chances are you're going to be making a lot of money or have a lot of impact, which in turn would, equate to a lot of capital. So I want to kind of touch on that too a little bit. I mean, you guys have raised, a decent amount of money. I think you just raised like $6 million earlier this year from some notable firms as well. We have a lot of early stage founders who, are, watching and going to be listening on the podcast and everything later on too. What is your, and you're a first time founder too, which is, I think, really important. And, as a first time founder, it's increasingly harder to raise capital than someone who has done it before and who has built a company previously. So I'd love for you to share what that process was like, being a first-time founder and going out and raising capital. I think obviously your experience in the world of finance and coming from Harvard, probably helped a little bit with that. But at the same time, you have to establish credibility and trust with these people, especially in an industry like you're in. If you want to touch on that and how you went about the process of raising your first round of funding and then now your larger round of funding, and any tips that you have for other first-time founders.
Yeah, great question. So look, there are obviously different degrees and levels of challenges when you are a first-time founder. Obviously, raising capital is perhaps one of the bigger ones. But with regards to what we did and the path we took to get to this place, we always had this mindset that capital isn't necessarily a definition of how well you've done or how big of a problem you're attacking or how well you have de-risked your business. It really is a validation of the efforts you're putting in, the approach with which you are going about solving the problem. And that's I think the underlying thesis with which we approach the whole idea of raising capital to be able to go, solve the problems we're trying to solve. Look, I think the first place I started from is this a problem worth solving? And the second question I ask is, hey, are we best positioned to do this? Why should we be the one doing this and solving this problem? And the third is, can we be the smartest in our approach to go about fixing the issues we see in this industry? And I think we did make appropriate steps in sequencing the de-risking of our solution, and we also made significant progress early on in properly identifying the problem. And I see, look, because I was an investor, one of the things I'd seen in my investing lives is that there are incredibly hardworking, smart folks out there that build amazing solutions, but most of the time the problem they are attacking may or may not be the right problem, right? And if the fundamental problem you're going after is not the right one, regardless of how shiny and exciting your solution may be, it may not be worthwhile for investors to put capital behind you and your idea. The second thing is, if you have the right problem, even if your approach is wrong, as a early stage company, you have the benefit of iterating and figuring out different ways to go about solving the problem in the right way that allows you to get to the type of solution that ultimately does the job that you need to do, right? So I think the first thing that I would encourage everyone, and that's the approach we took, is let's identify the right problem, right, and make sure that it is indeed an actual painful problem, and then properly sequence the steps so that your solution is de-risked, that it is actually validated. And when you do that, I think capital will follow. And obviously, when you're a first-time founder, the work you do, the team you build, the early solution you have has to do most of the talking, right? Because you don't have the credibility of having done it once to speak on your behalf. So I think that's one of the things that I was kind of cognizant from the very beginning. But I wouldn't say this was a straight line to this point, and we obviously have a long way to go. But we were the entire time mindful of, hey, what is the best way to attack this problem? Once we got the validation that the problem was large enough that it needed to be solved, and folks that were dealing with it, the issues were acute to them, we then started really identifying the proper de-risking steps and laying out the solutions. And I think at that point we were able to convince our amazing investors and other entrepreneurs who had build companies that this was a problem worth solving, and we had the right solution, and we're making the appropriate steps and to go in that direction. So I think that is the critical piece. Now, one thing I can say from my own experience, both as an investor and now as an entrepreneur, is that if you build a company to raise money as opposed to building a company to actually solve a problem, right? I think you'll see the difference early on, right? Because you have incredible confidence that you're going to do this one way or the other. But if you build a company that is designed to, let's say, first raise capital and then maybe potentially go solve the problem, then I think that would be a relatively difficult path. At least that's how we thought about it. And look, the one of the first things we did was, can we go test this with as many people as possible and see what the reaction would be? The reaction we got was quite overwhelming and quite positive. And there are certain elements to our business model that has some degree of network effect, some degree of process automation, some degree of convincing large players who in many cases may or may not want new entrants, right? And we're able to check all those boxes early on, and I think that also helped crystallize the story a little bit more. And I think our entrepreneurs and investors saw it. The other thing I'm going to be a little bit more specific about insurance is insurance, such a vital industry. It represents significant portion of GDP. It affects and touches everyone. But the industry is in the Jurassic age, and folks that have given us capital themselves had painful experiences, procuring and managing insurance and other risk management solutions. They also thought that this was a large industry that required team that had in-depth knowledge and the right approach to going about solving it. And I think it's a combination of all of these things that allowed us to raise let's say successfully raise the capital. But obviously, the journey is just beginning, and we're excited about where we can take this from here.
I love all that. I think you hit on a number of critical points there. And I think you're spot on with the insurance industry. I mean, being, a founder, like we've had to, when you leave your job and you start your own company early on, there's this whole question of, well, how do you even get insurance as an entrepreneur? Because most of the time you get healthcare through your employer. Right. So then you have to deal with that just from a personal standpoint. Then when you do start a company and whatever it is that you are doing, generally speaking, you should be getting some sort of business insurance as well. Now, that's a whole nother rabbit hole that you have to go down to figure out what liabilities you need. Whether do you need general liability, do you need cyber insurance, do you need property insurance, all these other things. And then when you bring on employees and all of this stuff, now you're dealing with more and more insurance. And there's so many variables that, and it's things that, I didn't know early on. You don't think about those when you're a first-time founder or when you're starting out, but they are critical pieces to, the entrepreneur and startups, especially when you're trying to build high growth companies. Then there's directors and officers insurance when you bring on investors and things like this.
Mike, I'm quite impressed. You know your insurance more than most of the people I interact with. We're obviously not in the world of insurance, so obviously that's exciting. Particularly, and then by the way, that's one of the bigger problems is that the way traditional insurance companies, both on the carrier side, who are essentially the entities that contain the risk that you are transferring them to for a monthly premium and whatnot, right? And the way the product is distributed today makes it extremely difficult for you to understand what you need. And it also makes it difficult for you to understand and appreciate the different risks you have, right? And not to derail the conversation, but the point is, and look, I think we should talk briefly about what Covered by Sage does as well. But that's one of the things that we're trying to solve. And insurance is such an important part of our economy and the way commerce functions generally, or the way we go about living our lives. But the way it is sold and the way it is marketed, the way we educate the stakeholders is completely wrong. And we have taken upon ourselves to basically say, hey, let's change this industry for the betterment of everybody involved, right? Including people like you and me. Look, I myself, when I first learned about this industry, which was many, many years ago, I had similar feelings. Why does it have to be so difficult to know exactly what kind of risks you have and what you need to best protect the things that you love?
Yeah, I would love, I think there's a lot of things that, we should definitely figure out a way to even collaborate to help some of the entrepreneurs and startups within our network with Covered by Sage. And I think now would be a great time too to share more, a little bit deeper about the company itself and how you can actually help individuals and then also businesses and stuff. And I know you guys have agents too that you're collaborating with. So that's an interesting touching point too, because I know there's some. I think Allstate's rolling out like agency owners, and then there's a couple other platforms that are doing this sort of thing, and it's really fascinating because there's a ton of insurance agents. Like that's what my dad had. My dad's been in insurance for forever. He was at MetLife and Minnesota Life and all these companies, what I mean? And it's, so old school. So I'd love for you to share more about, what you guys are doing, and, you can get into like the actual things that you can help individuals with, and then also businesses, and how you're streamlining this. Cause I think it's really important for people to understand, and you're going to deal with this throughout the rest of your life. Like there's no way to get around insurance. So it's better to understand it, now. If you don't, then, trying to figure it out later on when it comes up, because it's going to, it's something that you can't really avoid in the age of in.
Right. So let me take the opportunity to really lay out, the way we see the insurance world today. And even before that, for folks that don't know much about insurance, I'll start with the 101. So basically, look, we live in a world that has risks, and when you drive a car, you may get into an accident without your own fault, or someone unknowingly may come and hit you. Or if you have a business, let's say you have a pickle factory, despite taking the best of precautions, the pickles might be contaminated, right? Or if you run a website, there are enough, bad players out there that you could get hacked, and important information of maybe your customers or whoever else might be on your website could get disclosed. So the point is, there is risks everywhere, and there are obviously natural calamities, etc. If everyone that has the risk starts to contain it and keep it to themselves, aka be self-insured, right, the system wouldn't work. Every driver that's going to drive the car, we would need to make sure that they have enough money to pay for their damages and potentially the damage they may, accidentally cause on others. And that simply wouldn't be a system that can operate. Or if somehow, your website gets hacked and whatnot, and you have to pay for all of those damages, you may not have the wherewithal to do so. And therefore, there is this big question of, hey, do we allow someone to set something up if they don't have the ability to pay these ultimate damages? Right, that's where insurance comes in place. The idea of transferring these risks to a third party that is in the business of taking those risks, right? And in exchange for the transfer of that risk, we pay a small monthly or annual, semi-annual sum in the form of a premium. So that's, insurance plays such an important role in making sure that we can go about living our lives without having to be responsible for all these risks that we may not have the ability to essentially contain ourselves. So that is a product, and we need it. Anyone that has a home, before you drive a car off the lot, before you sign a lease for your office or hire your first, second, third employees, you need insurance. Some are mandatory insurance required by regulations. The others are perhaps something you should get to better protect all these different risks, from all these different risks, right? So where we come in the picture is, in the US, over 90% of all property and casualty insurance is distributed by actual human agents, So these are essentially either captive agents. So captive agents are agents that only sell a particular company's policies. So all state agents are captive agents. State Farms, Nationwide agents used to be captive agents. They have recently gone independent. Nationwide is forcing them to go independent. So there are these agents on one side who are captive. The issue with the captive agents is that they are contractually and structurally only able to provide one product from their insurance company, right? Therefore, in this day and age, when the customers are demanding choice, most of these captive agents are unable to offer the choice. The second thing with the captive agents is, if you think about it, captive agents is essentially producing for the carrier. And the carrier doesn't make money necessarily from that incremental marginal distribution that an agent does. The insurance company makes money if the agent is distributing a particular insurance product that is profitable, right? Say if you have a house on the other side of the fire line in California, or if you have a house with a coastal exposure, right? And then the carrier doesn't make money in that line of business. Right? They may, come down, wake up one day and say, hey, we don't want to write this business anymore. So as an agent that plays in the middle, your ability to essentially be able to serve all kinds of customers are limited by the things that make your insurance company profits, right? And that could severely restrict the customers you can serve, and also it's going to jeopardize perhaps the customers you may already have in your book of business, because now the carrier may want to say, hey, I don't want to keep any of these businesses anymore with me. Right. So we see, one, you cannot offer choice. Second, as an agent, your ability to retain and sell insurance to or serve any of your clients can be restricted by what the carrier wants. And the third thing is, pretty much every single of these insurance companies that have captive agents also sell through independent agents, or they sell direct. Let's say, for example, Allstate owns Esurance, right? They sell directly to the customer. Right. They also own other independent agency brands, right, that sell through independent agents like ourselves. Right. So when we looked at the captive agency model, we basically said, look, it's in a structural decline. There are 60, 70,000 plus captive agencies around the country, and a bunch of people that work within this ecosystem. And over the next several years, the captive agency model has to evolve into something, otherwise it's going to face a steady secular decline. And we basically wanted to be the platform with which these agents have a second chance to go about really redefining what their business is, and go independent, so that they can work with multiple different insurance companies. They can leverage technology and a whole host of things. That's one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is we have the independent agents in more traditional setting, right? Most traditional independent agents, they tend to be relatively older, 59 years of median age. And the nature of this business makes the business sticky, because people don't change their agents. And as a result, most agencies, still use the same old processes. They lack any kind of technology that makes the agent's experience better. And they severely lack technology offerings that makes the customer's life easier. Right. The other thing is, in the independent agency setting, the agency principal, the guys who own the agency versus people who are doing the work and producing business, advising the clients, tend to be different. And the agency owners take most of the economics, whereas the people who are out there producing get a disproportionately lower share. And then the third thing there is, the technology simply doesn't exist. I mean, in when you compare that with where technology in other industries have gone, right? And as a result, the experience of an agent is really, really terrible, right? And the industry therefore has this massive talent dearth, because no one wants to be an insurance agent. And by the way, if you're a good insurance agent who knows what they're doing, can properly advise your clients, right, you can make a great living out of this. Right? But most younger folks, people of our generation, would rather do something else than be a risk advisor, right? And then the final thing here is, the customer experience, because the agents are old, because they don't have technology, and what they expect of these agents is also, quite depressing. And so we look at both of these situations where, on one hand, you have captive agents who are unable to provide choice, are restricted on all fronts, right? And are competing with their own insurance companies. And on the independent agency setting, where the economics are unfair, the experience is terrible, and we don't have young people joining this industry, such a vital industry, right? We saw a massive opportunity. We basically said, look, we can change, right, what it means to be an insurance agent on their, from the perspective of both the agents and the customer. Right? We can do that with the right technology implemented across the insurance value chain. We can do that by providing better, significantly better experience for both agents and the customers. And I think the more fundamental of it is that we can change the underlying economic equation between the agency owner and the people who actually go out and build this relationship and produce business. Hopefully that sort of encapsulates who we are and what we're trying to become. Look, our goal is to become the disruptive, innovative brokerage alternative to both of these models out there, where we really empower the agents to not only leverage technology so that they can preserve the business they have built, but also thrive, right? Where they become as savvy as they can possibly be with the tech we have around, and the customers, right, who can get what they want. If they want more control, they can get more control. If they want agents and right technology across the board, they can get that as well. So that really is our business, and we really view ourselves as a real alternative, with agents front and center, and giving the right power to the customer, and really disrupting this industry for the betterment of everyone involved.
Yeah, I love. Thank you for diving into all of that. I think that was extremely helpful. To understand all of this, and we've gone through this, as I mentioned kind of before, like over the last couple of years. There's a couple, there's obviously issues with this that even we've gone through. I mean, we've been negotiating D&O insurance for several months. You're going back and forth with the broker, then the actual underwriter, the issuer of the insurance, they want documentation or other things that then you have to then send them, and it's a back and forth thing. So there's a lot of like you were saying, it's very old school, and I think if you guys can help streamline this, it's going to be extremely beneficial. And I think I'm excited to see how you guys really start disrupting this over the coming years too. So I'm excited for you, definitely. And now I'd love to get into some of these things that you've learned now growing this company. I'm not sure how many employees you have right now, but I think you're around like 80 or something. And how do you go about how did you go about finding co-founders? How did you go about hiring, bringing on your own employees, and really starting to scale? Because you get $6 million plus, people are going to start expecting things. You have to start hitting the hiring spree and all of that. How did you go about doing that? How did you over the last several months now start to really scale? And do you have any advice for people on things that you've learned doing this now with hiring and scaling, growing your company, and hitting those next milestones?
Right. So excellent question. And by the way, perhaps this is one of the most difficult decisions one has to make. At least that's how I felt about how do you balance the aggressiveness with which you need to build a team, de-risk your thesis, with the obvious capital constraints that are put around you, right? And I think that's what makes us entrepreneurs, that we are able to strike that balance appropriately, where the business is de-risking properly. At the same time, you are going and scaling the team. So our thesis around team building is really grounded from the very beginning in our values. We basically said we want to bring in really promising folks. They don't have to be already superstars, right? But we needed rock stars, people that are going to be amazing and that they can grow with the organization. And so in the beginning, we struck the balance by getting folks that had the right experience, but also getting folks that were rising through the ranks, and we were able to strike that balance, I think, appropriately. Therefore, being able to do all the de-risking, hit all the de-risking milestones with the number of folks we had. Now, obviously, when you get more capital, it obviously gives you more flexibility in becoming more precise in terms of exactly who you're hiring. It also gives you more flexibility in terms of growing the size of the team. Right, but again, we just kept going back to this, some of our core values, when we find folks that were deeply aligned with how we thought about what our team should be to be able to really go and attack this big problem. Those are the type of people we brought on, right? And obviously, sometimes there are compromises, and you have to make those compromises on different dimensions, right? In many cases, you may not be able to pay folks their fair share. Obviously, when you're early stage, you can play with your equity currency and convince them. But look, nothing is more powerful when you're putting something together than your broader mission. If people understand that what you're building is worthwhile, when people understand that you are impacting lives, that you are changing an industry for the betterment, and it has the potential to touch, millions of folks, I think it becomes relatively easy to convince those that are excited, those that want to be part of something bigger, something more exciting like this, to come join you. And that's the approach we took, right? And I'm incredibly proud of the team that we built. We have a lot of people that knew nothing about insurance, and that's one of the beauty of what we're building is we're getting people from different other industries and walks of life to really come from the outside, look at it, tear it apart, and rebuild it in a manner where we can write the future of this industry and in a different level. And that, while there is tremendous value in getting teammates that have the industry knowledge, you definitely want to balance this out with people that bring in interesting perspective, and we struck that balance, and we continue to strike that balance, right? And the other thing I would mention is, look, hiring is one of those things, just as a founder, that I had to basically spend a lot of time learning, and I'm getting better at it every single day. But it is perhaps one of those things where you could read books, you could ask people, you could do a lot of interviews, but you got to have the right experience. Is really understanding, okay, what are the qualities I care about, and how do I know that a given potential employee or team member has those capabilities. We're getting better at it. We are making it a little bit more of a core competency. You have to do that, particularly in earlier stage. And I would imagine it becomes even more important as we grow. But thankfully, we sort of part of our culture where we go back and always reflect and reiterate and say, hey, what did we get right? What did we got wrong? We're able to refine it, and I feel pretty good about the way we build the team so far.
I think that's fantastic advice on how to really go about finding the right people, and I love your points on the mission. And I think for us with Onshore, we don't want anyone involved, from an investor to employee, whatever, unless they want to build the largest network of entrepreneurs and this new social platform for the future of work. So I think fundamentally, it's always going to be better if you can align, the people with the mission, and have, people who are coming in that are like, hey, let's disrupt insurance. Like we're dedicated to solving this problem and jumping on board with it, because, as startups, you're, like you mentioned too, you might not get paid as much as you could working in finance or whatever for Goldman Sachs, or as a lawyer, engineer, whatever that may be. Or Google and Facebook are paying ridiculous amounts of sums for engineers. But if you look at the first 10, 20 people who worked at Facebook or who are part of a new startup, that's how you really build generational wealth, and how you can really transform anything to create what you really want. So that's a beautiful thing about startups. Obviously, there's a lot of other stories that didn't work out well, but I really appreciate your advice on that. And I know we're coming up on time here, so I'd love to start getting into some Q&A. And we have one question here that kind of goes with one of the other things that I was going to ask anyway about partnerships. So number one, how do you look at partnerships? Obviously, in the insurance industry, you can definitely partner with a lot of companies or not partner with a lot of companies. You know what I mean? And or other industries. I think there's probably a lot of partnership opportunities that you've looked into. So how do you think about partnerships or collaborations? Number one, and then number two, is your company interested in partnerships right now? If so, what are you guys looking for? And, if people are watching and they could help, or, if they can reach out, or if there's ways that, there's an overlap there or something that you're interested in or looking for that can help you guys, what would that be?
Yeah. So on the partnership point, we from day one, we understood that, changing the industry for the better is going to be a collaborative effort. And we want to be the best partners with our insurance carrier that we work with. We want to be the preferred, partners for agents and brokers that we work with. And I've said this, and we've done it in the past as well. And we want to collaborate with as many insurtechs or any other companies that we can work with to really sort of bring this mission to fruition, right? Which is to change the insurance industry for the betterment of everybody involved, right? And so we are always open to that. We think the technical innovation debt that this industry has is tremendous, and the best way to go about this is to join our hands. And so we're open to, obviously depends on what kind of partnership, such a broad term, but we are open to exploring this on all fronts, right? And so, if there are folks that are interested to talk about this in detail, we're more than welcome to do it. A couple of things I can say is, we work with, we're quite fortunate to work with a lot of carriers. They really like our mission. They like the fact that we are really, envisioning the agent of tomorrow and building technology and capabilities around them so they can really play to their strengths, and a lot of our carrier partners are excited about that, right? And so we work with a lot of them, and if there are folks that are interested and want to talk to us, we're always open. Second, there are obviously a bunch of insurtechs that are innovating around on the risk side, the book side, which is where you basically ultimately retain the risk. And we work with a number of them, and we always welcome the opportunity. We can get better together, and we'll do what we can. And then the third thing is, of course, on the customer front. Look, we think insurance industry has really not taken the customer experience and the changes in customer experience and expectations that is undergoing seriously. And any platforms that are out there that really care about the customer experience and want their customers to have amazing risk management solutions, we love to work with them as well. And so in all fronts, we are open to all kinds of partnership, and we know we cannot do this alone. We want to play a major role, and we will, welcome with open arms to anyone who wants to work with us on any of these fronts. Then your second question was basically around. I'm trying to remember what it was exactly, but. Look, ultimately, there are folks who want to reach out and talk about the industry. I'm happy to hold that conversation as well.
Yeah, I think you answered
the question, which I forgot.
Yeah, well, it was around how do you look at partnerships, and I think you said it very well. Saying that from the beginning you knew to disrupt the industry was going to be a collaborative effort. So I think most of the time, if you're solving a big problem, you're going to need to figure out ways of either integrating, doing partnerships. There's a lot of ways of uniquely collaborating with other companies where it's mutually beneficial, and you can both benefit from disrupting an industry. You know what I mean? So I think you said it really well there,
Right.
for sure. And yeah, I think that was spot on. I think that's a great way of looking at partnerships and whatnot. I want to get into and talk about another question here in regards to kind of networking, mentorship, this sort of thing. How have you gone about that? What do you have? Did you seek out mentors early on? And then do you have any advice for people on networking right now? Obviously, it's pretty weird, times, and in New York, that was, I loved New York because of that. It was a great place to network, and we loved doing events there. Now everything's virtual, so it's a little different. We do a lot of these events to bring people together. We're obviously building a networking app so we can help with that. What are some other tips and strategies that you have, for people? Number one, finding mentors. Number two, networking right now.
Yeah. So, look, I've been incredibly fortunate in my life to be what I am today, and that is in large part because of people who gave me benefit of the doubt. They trusted me. They gave me opportunities, help me, help open doors for me. So I do. First of all, I'm, I don't know if any of them will see this, but I'm quite grateful, to them for all they've done. I do think that because I'm honestly the living proof of folks that of the power of networking, the power of mentorship, the power of going to someone and asking for help, the power of seeking out guidance, information, being prepared, right? So all of those things matter, and I have done that throughout my career. And we continue to do that. And one of the humility is you need to have as a startup or as a founder is, look, there are going to be so many things you're not going to know day one, and your ability to really calibrate them, understand them, and all that's going to depend on the people you surround yourself with. Right. So one of the things that we've done from very beginning is we've tried to seek out and build relationship with, thought leaders in the industry, get their advice, put our point of views and see how they react, and that has served well, to us as a company, and to me as a founder. So obviously, I cannot emphasize the importance of building relationship, seeking out mentors, and doing the networking. One of the things that I always felt bad about is I was always on the receiving end of it. Obviously, I was relatively younger, didn't know much, but hopefully over the next several years, and then I can pay it forward. But don't feel bad about it. I think you should reach out. You should, with the right intention, ask questions, remain curious, and I think that will pay off handsomely. And that certainly happened with me. And look, I was born and raised in a small village, and my journey all the way to Wall Street and now here was in large part, because people really believed in me, right? And that led me to really try out new opportunities, and when I excelled, it opened new doors. So I think my suggestion to all those who are listening is just keep trying, be genuine in your efforts, and go with curiosity, go with questions, and don't feel burdened that you can't pay back immediately. I think life is long, and there are opportunities to pay it forward. That's how I view it, at least at this point.
I love that. I think it would be really interesting to get, because we have we have people on Entre now from 100 different countries, and I'd love to get your thoughts on being an immigrant founder. Do you have advice for people who are, because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now with visas and all sorts of things. Like I have friends who are Indian and they have companies, but then their visa's expiring, all sorts of different things that are going on. Do you have, and I know there's definitely some, founders in our network that are from different countries and things. Do you have any advice for, founders maybe not based in the U.S. or how they can start tapping into the U.S. or any, advice for immigrant founders or foreign founders that you have?
Yeah, look, excellent point. It definitely hits so close, to I guess particularly my heart, because it affects covered by SAYS quite a bit. That the visa restrictions and all that sort of stuff. Look, ultimately, the defining trait of an entrepreneur is to find a solution when other people don't believe something like that actually exists. And so there are countless examples of folks who may or may not have at a point in time the ability to be in the US and meet and build relationships physically. They've gone on to start very successful businesses, and they can solve problems without necessarily being here physically. And I think that can be done. Obviously, it's going to be harder, right? And but on the other hand, United States is such an incredible place that you get benefit of the doubt. And so look, I wish I had a solution on exactly how to solve this problem, but I think there is no substitute to just keep at it. That's what we did, and that's what we continue to do, right? And it's tough for particularly at this time. I've been here for the last 15 years, and things do feel a little bit tough, particularly around visa restrictions, etc. But if you have the right thesis, if you seek out the right folks, and you're trying to solve the right problem, I think you'll find a lot of people that support it. And while on one hand you have some of these restrictions in terms of one's ability to come and continue to work in the U.S. On the other hand, I think the investment community, also folks that want to join startups, I cannot think of a better time when the supporting ecosystem welcomes founders regardless of where they might be, right? So long as the problem is good, meaning it actually makes an impact and you are going about it the right way, I think you'll find folks that would go out of their way to help you sort of come bring your point of view to at least a position where you can actually test it and hopefully works out and you can build it out. So it is challenging, it's not easy, but I also don't think it's the end of the world.
Fantastic points there. I think it's one of those things where if you prove the concept out, people are not going to care where you're from and how who you are and all that. If you can show traction and you're solving a correct problem, at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. And hopefully, I think there's going to start to be some more things to help with this as time goes on. I think over the next year, obviously with COVID, there's going to be travel restrictions and visa restrictions and all sorts of stuff. But I think after this period, I think everything's going to start opening up. And I think it's actually going to start making everything a lot easier, because there's no reason it can't be. There's no reason that you can't start a company with someone from another country very easily. There's no reason that these things should matter at the end of the day. So right. We have another quick question here about offshore or outsourcing. I don't know if you guys have done any of this, what your thoughts are on it. And then we'll wrap up here right after that.
Great. And I think it's an excellent question, so relevant, particularly, with my background. And so, by the way, this ties to the earlier question. With COVID, it almost doesn't matter where you are. We are as close or as far apart that we can possibly be. Anyway, so with regards to offshoring, look, I think talent isn't necessarily defined by geography, where you are, where you're raised or color of your skin. It doesn't matter. So I think you can find amazing, talented people anywhere. Obviously, there are certain countries, certain economies where the talent may be more trained than others. We do have our Sage sort of teammates in outside of the U.S., and we're extremely proud of them. They've done tremendous amount of work. They continue to make us proud. Obviously, we had to invest a little bit more on training. We had to invest a little bit more on, sometimes there are cultural stuff. People may not speak up as openly, or the deference to managers or leads might be a little bit more higher than perhaps in the US. So there are certain things that we just have to work from a cultural standpoint. But other than that, it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, if I believe if you take 100 folks, it will follow the same normal distribution. So, I am a huge supporter of this idea of outsourcing. It's not even outsourcing anymore. It's just, find and give opportunities to capable people, whatever they might be. Right? A lot of times people do it because of capital constraint. People do it because they can hire in certain places faster than perhaps in the US. And I really promote and encourage that. We have a number of folks in outside of the US who are exceptional, right? And so it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously you need to train them a little bit more, and sometimes it becomes difficult for them to contextualize the problem, but I think those are quite solvable. And so I absolutely support it. I absolutely promote it. Now, sometimes offshoring means having two teams with different cultures. They report differently. I don't know if that works. We don't have that. We treat everyone that's in the Sage family as one, and there's no difference. And so that has worked out nicely for us. And I think the world is going to move in that direction anyway. The talent can be anywhere. The degree of grooming might vary, but ultimately you should be able to get that type of results from smart folks, anywhere they might be, or however they might have been, raised. All of those things are inconsequential ultimately.
Yeah, 100%. I really liked how you put that, with just giving opportunity to anyone who's capable. I'm the same way. I don't care whether you're here in Pittsburgh or New York or the US, or you're in India or Africa or Europe or wherever. If you can get the work done, it's quality work, you're on time, and you're on board with our mission, that's all that matters at the end of the day. And I think for a lot of early stage companies, and really any entrepreneur that's doing online business and whatnot, there's so many benefits of doing offshore development, doing overseas planning. I mean, you can build your company for 1/10 of the cost in a lot of cases. The problem, it comes down to quality and trust when you're going offshore. That's the only thing that's sometimes difficult. But now with different platforms, and this is a big focus for our platform too, it's giving people the ability to qualify people, have reviews, and all the stuff, and actually being able to contact people beforehand before you hire, or just doing freelance work for someone, but seeing their profile, seeing how they interact, and seeing reviews and things like that, it makes everything a lot easier. So I really liked how you put that, and I think that's a great way to wrap things up. I'd love to have you. I really, really enjoyed this. I want to just be mindful of your time, because I know we're a little bit over here too. I know you're super busy with everything going on, but I'd love to have you wrap up. Just where can people find you? What's the best way to get in contact? How can people learn more about Covered by Sage and yourself? And then we can sign things off. And if there's any other final piece of advice you want to share too, that would be great.
Yeah, so look, I'm on LinkedIn, or you can email me, which is basically my first name dot last name at coveredbysage.com. Happy to get on call, talk about our story and the things we've learned. Happy to do that at any point in time. If there are entrepreneurs who need insurance advice as well, we could do that as well. And happy to. You don't have to buy insurance from us. We love supporting entrepreneurs and founders, and we're happy to do that in any way, shape, or form that we can. With regards to final piece of advice, look, being an entrepreneur is obviously not easy. I would never say it's easy. It has been quite fulfilling. It has been a really exciting journey. We're solving a big problem where we know we are affecting, tons of lives, helping people make better living, helping people, really protect what they love. And that's a mission that excites me. So if you're doing something, find something that is worthwhile. Obviously, making money is one aspect of it, but don't get too hung up on it. If you're doing the right thing, I think money will follow, right? Solve a big problem, a problem that you know well. Even if you don't know it, just go at it and figure it out. Right? I think you can. If someone else has figured it out, you should be able to do it too. That's the mindset at least we have. So, I wish everybody all the best. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
I love that. That's a great way to end things out. And yeah, thank you everyone who tuned in. If you're watching this later on or listening to this on the podcast, thank you for listening. This was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed this, and definitely check out Covered by Sage. And if you guys have any questions about insurance, definitely use them as a resource for sure. And if they can help, which I know they can. And I'd love to figure out a way to collaborate with Entre too. And I think there's a lot of people in our network that could, use you guys for sure. So really appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll be able to do something like this in person at some point in time, or do an insurance panel and bring you back on. But thank you so much. And for everyone watching, thank you again, and take care, everybody. Hopefully see you again soon.
Thanks, Mike, for having me, and everyone stay safe. Bye.